All right, welcome to this. I'm Steve Floyd, and I'm here with a couple of friends of mine. I've got Mindy Juliana sitting here in the dark with me, and in the back, really in the dark, we've got Chris Ripple. And today we're going to be talking about the power of light in an emergency. Now, obviously, if the lights go out, most people think of what? Candles?
Sure.
Right? That's the first thing. That's getting smoky in here. Obviously, with the advent of the electric light, you can use a battery-powered headlamp to demonstrate exactly how much light you can get. Go ahead and take that off for a second. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, you can actually see pretty far with these, and most of them have, you can dim it like that, or you can flash it in an emergency.
Very nice. Now, I have one of these, which I hardly ever take with me camping, but Chris, why don't you go ahead and light that up for us? This is a propane light, and obviously we've got the entire, this is not what I normally use to light but it looks pretty close to what I normally use to light the studio with all that electricity. Right now, though, it's using all that propane. And the whole point of this is to demonstrate in the case of emergency. Why don't we go ahead and put that behind the drums over there and see?
Yeah, we can use that as the light for the show.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I like it, yeah.
In the case of an emergency, if the power goes out and you don't have lights, you got to have something, or else you're just running around and bumping into the dark, or bumping into things in the dark.
Right.
And what would you? I've had a number of power outages here in town, but they don't normally last very long. So it's not normally a big thing. We hardly ever have to get our candles out. We got them out in the case of that storm last week. They were ready, and then they got put away again. I know where they are, but they're just not easily accessible for
everyday use.
Right, exactly. The reason why we put them away is so that the children don't play with them, or that I don't light them up here. And
why do you want a house that doesn't burn down?
I'm going to have a special candlelit podcast. But in the case of an emergency, long term, if we're talking about 3 to 5 days without power, something like a propane-powered lamp would work.
Right. Being able to get light right away is really important, which is why I have headlamps, and I live on a small farm, and it's dark in the wintertime anyways, so I pretty much live with my headlamp, but I also keep my headlamp right next to my bed every night in case there's an earthquake or something happens in the middle of the night and or there's a sound downstairs or something. I've got access to light right away. So for me, my headlamp is my first line of defense, because everywhere I go, I can see it's right there, and I'm hands-free, which is important because evidently I talk with my hands. So if I had to have a flashlight, I wouldn't be able to talk. So, so for me, the headlamp is going to be the first line of defense. But I have had the electricity go out where I couldn't find my headlamp, and what I have in my house is I've got 3 different lanterns. I've got 2 of them that are for candles. One is a little tea light lantern, and it's very beautiful. It's not practical. And it's a girly thing. And then there's another one.
I was going to say, I've never even heard of a tea lamp.
It's a little tea light candle. Anyway, it's for the girls. And then I have this really big lantern that is all glass all the way around it, that you can put one of those emergency candles in. And you can get emergency candles that will burn. There's 55-hour candles, there's 100-hour candles, and they're pretty big. They're the pillar candles. They're fantastic, and they're really not that much, $5 or $6. And if you've got one in a lantern, it gives off a lot of light. And so if you've got a candle, you can make those candles go a lot farther by adding something around it. I also love oil lamps. I love old school oil lamps. And so I have a variety of different oil lamps that I keep full. And because we did have a potential for a power outage with a storm last week, I cleaned all my lamps, and I filled them all, and they're now in the windowsill. And so if the light goes out, I immediately have my headlamp, and then I can go over and I can light my lanterns, and I can put them around the house, and it's very, very cozy.
I got to say last week I came to town on my 2 trips in the last 3 weeks. And as I was rolling out of town, it absolutely was the day that everybody was talking about snow apocalypse.
Apocalypse?
And it doesn't affect me a lot. I live about 30 miles north of town.
We did get 12 inches in one day.
But we got 20, 30 inches last year, that first dump early.
Oh, that September dump? That was
last year.
That was horrible. That was really.
But
see, that was fun for me because when I when that happened, where I worked was only about less than a quarter mile from my house. So it was fun. Everybody else was complaining about it, and I'm just tromping through the snow. I think one day I actually put my skis on and skied to work.
We don't like you anymore. Whatever. No, because he liked having, that was the worst.
I do.
It was this really heavy, like New York snow, and we have a little bit lighter snow that's easier to shovel. But that was a brutal snowstorm. Yeah,
but
I mean, things were collapsing all over.
That was last year. That was last September. Just last week we had or 2 weeks ago. Anyway, very recently we just had the dump.
We had a blizzard.
And
with some wind.
The wind is what knocks out the power. Now, sometimes the snow can, weigh down tree branches. And
if it was an ice storm, it would.
Yeah, ice storms definitely knock out the power here in Alaska. But no matter where you are, there's always the potential of the power going out. And having a light source is remarkably important. I've noticed this when I've been out camping, hunting, fishing even, that even just the warm light of a campfire, even if it's not generating any real heat, makes you feel warmer. And I don't know what it is that causes that.
We're photoreceptors is why. Yeah.
Warms your eyeballs.
Mr. Science back there.
Physically, we are. I mean, we look what we do. I mean, D3 is one of the vitamins we're short of whenever we don't get enough sunlight.
True.
And we are receptors. We are no different than a plant, really.
Well, I'm a little different from a plant.
You're not green.
Oh, this is true.
You're a meat sack.
I don't even have a green thumb. The point though about having a light source, especially thinking about it in terms of long term. For instance, batteries, we're only going to last for a number of hours before you're done.
Well, yeah, actually, if you have it on full, this one set of 3 AAA batteries will last for a couple of days. But that you do burn through them rather quickly. You can put it on one of the lower settings, and they'll last for longer, which is why having a variety of different light sources is important. You can get solar if you live in a place that has sun in the winter time.
Hand crank lights.
A little hand crank battery.
Where you actually power it and no battery required. It's kind of
I've got a cool little radio transistor thing that you can crank up. It has a light on it. It has you can charge things on it, and it has a radio. So it's kind of a cool thing.
The thing about the lamp, the light though, and the cranking, is that you begin to realize how. Okay, that's enough light for now. I mean, when it's actually your own power going into making the light, you begin to think about how much do I really need to see when I'm eating.
That's an interesting thing because it's really that concept with resources. If we were that closely linked, physically affected by our use of resources, I will tell you,
shift dramatically.
Our whole perception of how we do things would change. I grew 100% of my caloric intake in Fairbanks, Alaska. 100% of what I require for an annual supply of food in Fairbanks, Alaska, and I did it without running water. And I was hauling water in 5-gallon jugs. Not the smartest thing I've ever done, but.
So you exchanged the water for the fuel, basically, that you were burning to haul the water up there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is not a sustainable situation.
Not economical.
Not economical or sustainable or in any way wise. Right. But what I did was I learned how much water is required to grow food in Fairbanks under even drought conditions. And what it would take. That was a good lesson for me. I learned the lesson, and now I have running water.
Probably took quite a lot, didn't it? Yeah.
I was hauling between 50 and 75 gallons of water a day.
A day?
Yeah, we had a drought that year. It was 2 years ago, and June was really hot.
Meanwhile, I took a shower the other day. It was a 50-gallon shower, just like right there, just running water.
So when you have to crank for light, or when you have to haul water, you appreciate the value of that resource, which in many respects is a prepper mentality, because you have to think in terms of how you will live without something and how valuable something is and to what you're willing to sacrifice to get that thing in an outage of whatever kind of outage that might be. If there's an outage of food, what is the value of that food and what are you willing to do for that food, and how much food do you really need?
That's it, and an important key of it is being introspective, because that's part of being a prepper too. It makes you see inside yourself and what you can do and do not do without. It makes you look at yourself in a light that you probably never have before. And until you push yourself, being in the military, you can probably, you go through different things in life because it pushes you to the point to where you understand yourself better. And being a prepper is not anything different. It's just taking that understanding personally, changing it out, and then growing from there.
Well, and in terms of an action point, if somebody's coming into this for the first time thinking, well, what do I need to be prepared? This is one of the questions that we've asked as we used to do a radio show together was, what do you do when the lights go out? Not if the lights go out,
but when.
When the lights go out.
So for an action point, for light, if you live in a climate, or if you live in a place that has light deprivation in the winter, like Fairbanks, you have to think in terms of 18 plus hours a day that you're going to need this resource. If you live closer to the equator, you're looking at 12 hours a day. In the summer, we don't have to worry about it at all.
In the summertime, we have like 24 hours of functional daylight up here.
Really, we really do. I mean, we have it's above the horizon for 21, but it doesn't. It's like a long sunrise, sunset. So what I would recommend doing is maybe getting, depending on what your resources, your financial resources will allow, a couple of long-burning emergency candles. You can get little oil lamps. I went to one of the big box stores, but for like $7, you can get a decent size oil lamp with a nice big bowl at the bottom of it, and a bottle of lamp oil for $10. So for under $20,
I just want to give a quick plug there. Every community has a local store, not a big box store. You're going to pay a little bit more for some of these things.
Listen to
but if you go and you intentionally, I mean, this is something that you're getting. You're not going to use it every day, but you want something of good quality. You don't want something from Slave Mart that's going to break the first time you use it.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's worth it to go to the mom and pop store and see what they have in stock, or see what they can order for you. Because remember, you're thinking long term. You're thinking this is not something I'm going to go out. I have to have it by this weekend. This is not something you do when they send out the storm warnings. You're doing this now, before the
that's
emergency.
why it's called prepping, because it's preparing in advance.
So
you don't wait until the day of the game.
Go to the local mom and pop stores and see what they have, and talk to them about what kind of oil lamps they might have.
You
or
might find
lamps.
kerosene or propane or oil might be better for you.
I'm
and your
already
family.
smelling just from. I mean,
We're in
how
a
long
closed room.
has that been? 12 minutes that we've had in the closed room of the
We're gonna start
propane,
passing
and I'm smelling it. I'm feeling it.
Right.
Is that how do candles fare compared to propane?
Well, they're all going to give off some sort of off gases.
Right.
There's volatile organic carbons that are going to come off of everything.
They also give off heat, which is why I recommend something that burns as opposed to just something like yours that lights up. I'm just going to turn it on.
There you go.
It's something electrical. You're not going to have the breathing issues. You're not going to have the gases, but you're also not going to have the warmth. And if you're talking about, especially in Alaska, a power outage when it's dark, you're talking about winter, you're talking about wanting to keep warm, every little bit helps. That's why I normally have, I couldn't find it tonight, but I normally have a emergency candle set in my, and that's why I couldn't find it, it was in my go bag,
Right.
which is what I take hunting. So that if I get trapped out there, all I have to do is build a snow cave, and I can not only
They
have
can
light,
actually
but
keep
heat.
you quite warm.
Heat.
Yeah.
Flares work really well.
Flares
for that.
are great.
You can start a fire in snow. With
Yeah,
flares,
flares
they're
are actually a
couple of
really good
bucks
thing to
apiece.
have.
I
Anyway.
lit a completely soaked log. It had been raining for like 3 days, and we only had a flare. And we lit, well, a match to light the flare, but we lit the log that was completely soaked.
And
Got it
Amazing.
burning.
Yeah. Saved your life.
Yay, flare!
I know, right?
All right.
So as an action step,
So go research it.
I would recommend headlamps are about $20. And again, you would want to have, you want to get some bulk batteries. There's places you can do that at, or you can go online. But there's local stores that you can buy bulk batteries at.
Emergency candles.
Emergency candles are great because you get 55 hours, you light one right away, and you have light. I love the oil lamps myself versus the propane or the kerosene, but everybody is a little bit different. And so it just depends on...
The reason why I have the propane is because it's easily interchangeable. I use it also for my stoves. Right. So
Right.
camping, I've never seen a kerosene or oil stove, but I suppose they might be out there.
They do white
Oh,
gas.
absolutely.
The old Coleman's or the
old
white gas,
Coleman's,
you can
yeah.
use
Okay.
actually gasoline in them.
Right.
There's a lot of things, and keeping in mind on the availability of the resources it takes to
Yep.
burn these different
Yep.
things. So that's the other thing. If this is going to be long term, what are you going to do long term?
Yep.
What is short term? What is medium term? And what's long term?
And see, like we go out and we buy like a case of propane at a time, thinking long term.
Right.
And so we have a whole bunch of propane set off to the side. And when I go off camping, I will take a bottle with me and use that bottle until it's completely gone. I'll take it on multiple trips. And yet, if we were talking about an emergency situation in the middle of winter time, how much propane would I need to have stockpiled?
Right.
I'm going to want to be a little more conservative with how much
Well,
propane I
and
use.
if you're looking for your light source to be your main heat source, you probably need to focus more on your heat source.
Right.
And we can talk about that at another
At
time.
another time, indeed.
Yeah.
You like what I'm doing? Check it out. We've got a number of different options for you to support. Give what you can. Become a subscriber, however you want to put it. The idea is there are different people in different situations. We'd love to have you as a partner with what I'm doing here. You got a tip for us, or maybe a topic you'd like us to talk about, especially when it comes to prepping, being prepared. Send me an email, steve@radiofreespeech.com. Once again, you'll find all of these archived on their own page called Interviews at radiofreespeech.com. I'm Steve Floyd,
Mindy Juliana,
Chris Ripple.
and we will talk to you next time.
over.
Peace.